Hey guys, it's me, Mario, and today we're going to continue Soltra, the Stone Charmer. Chapter 2, Turned to Stone. How you guys doing today? Tom and Elena sat astride stormz broad back as he cantered along, with Silver lopping at his side. Despite the perils that lie ahead, Tom was glad to be heading home. The journey to Irano had been easy so far, following the waving line of the river. The day was hot, but a fresh breeze kept them cool. Brightly colored butterflies and jeweled dragonflies danced over the water. "We're nearly there," Tom said at last. A thrill of excitement shot through him at the thought of seeing his uncle and aunt again. But this would be no ordinary homecoming. The image of the golden chest plate had brought him here. That could only mean that one of Melville's evil beasts was lurking near the village. "We should leave the river now and go up over that low hill," Tom said, pointing. There's a small wood on the other side, and then it's all farmland till we get to Irano." "I'm really looking forward to seeing where you grew up," Elena said. They rode up the gentle slope of the hill and down into the woods. Silver trotted beside them, sniffing the air as if he were trying to pick up a scent. "What is it, boy?" Elena asked. "Can you smell something?" The wolf let out a soft whine. Storm whickered and turned his head. Something was unsettling the animals. Tom's hand went to his sword hilt. His shield, which carried 6 magical tokens from the good beasts of Eventia, was swung over his shoulder. He had freed all the beasts from Melville's evil curse: Verno the fire dragon, Sepron the sea serpent, Arcta the mountain giant, Nanook the snow monster, Tagus the horseman, and Epos the flame bird. And he knew he could call on them if he was in trouble. In addition, the golden chainmail and helmet he had already retrieved from Cepha the monster squid, and Claw the giant monkey were close at hand in the saddlebag. The chainmail gave him strength of heart, and the helmet sharpened sight. His powers were growing with every quest. He was ready for battle. "I think there's danger nearby," he murmured. Elena nodded, sliding an arrow from the quiver and slotted it into her bowstring. Slowly they came out of the woods and made their way along a road between high hedges. Through gaps in the hedgerows, they could see fields all around them, and the occasional distant farmhouse or barn. It all seems normal enough, Tom said worriedly. Except he frowned. He frowned. There was something wrong, but he couldn't put his finger on it. And then it struck him. It's too quiet. What's happening to all of the birds? There's a row of starlings over there. There's a row of starlings over there, Helena said, pointing to a wooden gate ahead of them in the hedgerow. Tom peered at the birds as they approached. He expected them to take flight and flap away over the fields, but they didn't move. The hair prickled on the back of his neck. Tom slid down from the saddle and walked up to the birds. Then let out a breath as he realized they were just statues. He reached out to touch one of them. The bird's body was hard and cold. The bird's body was hard and cold. They aren't real, he called back. They're made of stone. Elena jumped down and ran over to his side. She touched one of the small statues, then leaned in closer. You can see every tiny detail of the feathers, she said. They're too perfect to have been carved, Tom, I don't like this. Then Tom spotted in the field beyond a gray-brown shape in the stable of newly cropped hay. He climbed the gate and walked over to the shape, crouching down beside it and reaching out a hand. It was a stone hare. Its long limbs stretched as if it had been frozen in mid-flight. Tom picked it up and carried it back to the gate. He laid it at the roadside and stared down at it with a frown. Silver moved hesitantly towards the hare and sniffed it. A moment later, he bounded away, snorting and shaking his muzzle. Elena shivered. What are you thinking? She asked Tom. He looked at her. I don't believe they're statues at all, he said. I think something has turned living creatures into stone. It must be Marvel's evil beast, Helena murmured. A new urgency filled Tom's heart. We have to get to the village, he said. Let's hope the beast hasn't been there yet. The thought of his aunt and uncle and the other villagers of Ironal turned to stone was too awful. The two friends jumped back into Storm's saddle. Tom pressed his heels into the stallion's sides, and the horse broke into a gallop. Silver ran close by, his body low to the ground. The village was a few miles away through the fields. Tom remembered the fragment of horseshoe given to him by Tagus the horseman. It had the power to give him great speed. He touched the magical token in his shield, and Storm began to gallop faster than Tom had ever known. He clung on to stormz's back as the stallion flew through the fields, and Eleanor gripped Tom's belt as sea wind whistled past their ears. As the wind whistled through past their ears, Silver bounded alongside the racing horse, his tongue lolling. Only a few moments later, Tom saw something strange ahead of them in a nearby field. "Stop!" he called. Storm came to a halt. Tom jumped down and ran towards a low fence. "I know this field," he called to Elda as she leaped off the stallion's back. "It belongs to Farmer Gretzlin. Look!" He pointed a shaking finger over the fence. 3 gray figures stood unmoving in the newly plugged field. A team of oxen and a man. All had been turned to stone. And that was chapter 2. I really felt like I needed to burp, but I didn't. That was chapter 2. Turned to stone. Things aren't looking too good. I forgot how intense these books can get. Oh well. Hope you guys enjoy my read through of them. Hope you like, subscribe, hit the bell as always. And yeah, we'll see you in the next part of Beast Quest. See you in the next chapter. Right. See you guys in the next video. Bye bye.